Here comes a time in every life when everything seems to fall apart. Dreams crumble, hopes fade, and silence takes over where laughter once lived. In that still many give up, believing their story has ended. But failure is not the closing chapter of your life, it is the turning point. It is life's way of stripping away illusions, showing you the depth of your strength. When everything you built breaks down, it's not to destroy you, it's to make space for something truer to emerge from within you. The courage to start over is the mark of a spirit that refuses to be defined by defeat. Failure is never a full stop, it is a sharp awakening from the sleep of comfort. It comes to break the walls of illusion that you have built around yourself. When everything falls apart, the mind screams in pain, but beneath that pain lies the voice of truth. Growth does not happen where things are easy and predictable. It happens when your certainties collapse and you are forced to look deeper. Every failure burns away false confidence and shows you how fragile your strength was. But that same fall gives birth to something real, something unshakable within you. To begin again after failure, one must first learn the art of acceptance. Acceptance does not mean surrendering to defeat. It means acknowledging what has happened without letting it define who you are. It means standing still amid the chaos and saying, yes, this happened, but it is not the end of me. From that space of clarity, courage takes root. The courage to start again is born not from motivation, but from understanding. When you truly see failure as a teacher rather than an enemy, the fear of falling again disappears. Awareness is the bridge between destruction and rebirth. When you observe your pain without judgment, you begin to understand its message. Awareness allows you to respond with consciousness, not with reaction. Instead of drowning in regret, you start learning from it. The one who is aware does not collapse under failure, they rise because they see what others miss. They recognize that every fall carries the seed of transformation and only awareness can help it bloom. Without awareness, a person repeats the same mistakes endlessly, calling it destiny. With awareness, the same mistakes become stepping stones toward mastery. Letting go is the hardest yet most powerful step in starting over. People carry their past like a chain, thinking it defines their identity. But true strength lies in dropping what no longer serves you. Letting go is not forgetting, it is freeing yourself from the weight of what's already done. Once the mind is unburdened, clarity returns, and from that clarity, new direction emerges. Starting small is enough, because truth doesn't need grandeur, it needs sincerity. Even the smallest step taken in awareness is more powerful than the biggest leap made in confusion. When you rise after failure, rise not to prove the world wrong, but to prove your own inner strength right. Each ending is just a silent beginning, waiting for your courage to bring it to life. Failure purifies your vision, strips away the false, and prepares you for something more authentic. It doesn't destroy you, it refines you. The one who has fallen and dared to rise again becomes unshakable because they no longer fear losing. What breaks you today becomes the very strength that lifts you tomorrow. The courage to begin again is born in acceptance. Life does not move forward through denial or resistance. It moves when you stop fighting what has already happened. Regret is like a chain that binds the mind to what cannot be changed. As long as you hold on to the past, your energy remains trapped in what is gone. Acceptance is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the quiet understanding that the past cannot be rewritten, but the future can be shaped. When you accept reality as it is, not as you wish it to be, you open the door to clarity and strength. To start again, you must first face the truth of your fall without bitterness. Failure does not destroy you, your refusal to accept it does. Acceptance is the bridge between suffering and freedom. When you accept your mistakes, you no longer carry the poison of guilt, you carry the lesson. It is in that moment that you stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and start seeing yourself as a creator of new possibilities. Acceptance turns pain into understanding, and understanding gives birth to action. Every moment you resist what has already passed, you exhaust your inner strength. The mind keeps replaying the same story, seeking different endings in memory instead of creating new beginnings in reality. Acceptance silences this storm. It brings you back to the present where real change can happen. It is not a passive state. It is the most powerful decision you can make to stop wasting energy on what cannot be undone and to use it instead to build what can still be achieved. Awareness is the fine line that separates those who break from those who rise. When a person falls into failure, the natural tendency is to react with emotion, anger or self-pity. But awareness allows you to pause and see beyond the chaos. It lets you understand the situation rather than drown in it. Without awareness, the mind becomes a battlefield where regret, fear and blame destroy all clarity. With awareness, the same moment of failure turns into a mirror, showing you not what went wrong outside, but what needs to grow within. Pain is not the enemy, blindness to pain is. When you are aware, every difficulty becomes a lesson carved into your consciousness. Awareness transforms pain from punishment into power because it allows you to experience suffering consciously. In that conscious suffering, transformation happens. The one who observes their pain without running from it discovers a strength that cannot be shaken. Awareness doesn't remove the storm, it teaches you how to stand still in the middle of it without losing your balance. When you face failure with awareness, you no longer react from old patterns of fear and insecurity. You begin to respond with understanding. Every reaction feeds the fire of confusion, but every response guided by awareness calms the mind and strengthens the spirit. This is how awareness becomes the alchemy of transformation. It turns wounds into wisdom and mistakes into mastery. The same pain that once felt unbearable becomes the foundation of your resilience. Through awareness, you stop identifying with the failure itself. You see it as an event, not as your identity. You begin to recognize that you are not the fall, but the one who observes the fall. This separation is freedom. It allows you to rise above your own emotions and decisions with clarity. Once you stop saying, "I have failed," and start seeing, "failure has happened," you regain the power to choose your next step consciously. Awareness does not promise a life free of pain, it promises a life free of unnecessary suffering. It gives you the courage to walk through your challenges without being consumed by them. When awareness becomes your companion, failure loses its ability to break you. It simply becomes part of your growth. In awareness, every fall is a lesson, every loss a teacher, and every setback a doorway to deeper strength. The story you tell yourself after failure becomes the chain that keeps you bound to the past. Most people do not suffer because of what happened, they suffer because they keep repeating the story of it in their minds. Every time you say, "I failed," you breathe life back into a moment that has already passed. The past only has power over you if you keep feeding it through your thoughts. When you drop the story, you reclaim your energy. You are not what happened to you, you are what you choose to become after it. The mind loves to live in drama. It creates identities out of pain and pride, success and failure, and begins to defend them as truth. The moment you label yourself as a failure, you begin to live like one. You start seeing every possibility through the same lens of defeat. Letting go of the story means breaking free from that identity. It means refusing to let one event define the vastness of who you are. The one who can let go of their own story becomes free from the weight of judgment and expectation. To rise again, you must silence the voice that constantly reminds you of what went wrong. This voice is not your enemy, it is simply a habit. It repeats because you have given it importance. Awareness allows you to step back and see this voice for what it is: noise, not truth. Once you stop arguing with your past, you begin to hear the silence of possibility. The mind that is not trapped in its old story becomes open, creative, and courageous enough to build something new. Letting go does not mean forgetting, it means transforming. The lessons remain, the pain may still echo for a while, but your relationship with it changes. You begin to see your past not as a chain, but as a teacher. The experiences that once broke you become the roots of your wisdom. By dropping the story, you give life a chance to write a new chapter through you. Only an empty hand can receive a new gift. The same applies to your mind. Freedom is not achieved by running from the past, but by no longer carrying it. The courage to start over is born when you no longer identify with what you lost or who you once were. You realize that life is not interested in your stories, it is interested in your growth. Every moment offers a new beginning, but you can only take it if your hands are free from the weight of yesterday's tale. Letting go of the story is not an act of weakness, it is the ultimate declaration of strength. Silence is not emptiness, it is the birthplace of strength. After failure, the mind becomes restless, desperate to fix, to rebuild, to prove. But true renewal does not happen in chaos, it begins in stillness. When everything collapses, resist the urge to rush. Sit with the silence that follows. In that silence, the noise of the world fades and the truth of your being begins to whisper again. What seems like emptiness is actually the soil where clarity starts to grow. It is in this still space that direction returns, not as an idea, but as deep knowing. Silence strips away the unnecessary. When you stop moving, stop explaining, stop fighting what has happened, all that remains is reality as it is. It is uncomfortable at first because silence confronts you with yourself. It shows you the truth that movement often hides. But if you can endure that stillness without running away, you begin to see what truly matters. The layers of fear, pride and self-doubt start to dissolve. What is left is something pure, untouched by failure, your essence. In silence, the mind that once created confusion begins to heal. Every thought slows down, every emotion finds its place. You start to realize that renewal is not about doing more, but about being more aware. When you are silent, you are no longer reacting to life, you are observing it. From this observation, understanding grows naturally. You begin to see the difference between what is important and what is merely noise. The answers you once chased so desperately begin to arise on their own. The strength born from silence is not loud or dramatic, it is calm, steady and unshakable. It gives you the power to face life without panic. When you learn to sit in silence after a storm, you discover that nothing outside can truly destroy you. The world may crumble, but within you remains a still point untouched by chaos. That stillness becomes your foundation, a place where you can stand firmly and begin again with purpose and direction. Renewal begins when you allow silence to work within you. It clears the mind, heals the heart and aligns you once more with the rhythm of life. The one who can rest in silence does not fear failure because they know that nothing truly ends, it only transforms. When you learn to be still after every fall, you rise with a strength that noise can never give. In silence, you do not just recover, you are reborn. Resilience is not about fighting against life, it is about flowing with it. Most people mistake resistance for strength, believing that by refusing to bend, they are proving their power. But what they call strength is often only fear disguised as control. True resilience is born not from the urge to conquer, but from the willingness to adapt. When you stop resisting what is, the weight of struggle begins to lift and clarity begins to emerge. The one who can flow with life does not break under pressure because they move with the rhythm of existence, not against it. Resistance creates suffering. When you fight against what has already happened, you waste your energy on the impossible. The more you push back, the more life pushes harder. But when you allow yourself to accept the moment as it is, your energy stops scattering and begins to align. You start to see solutions where before there were only walls. Flowing with life is not weakness, it is intelligence. It is the understanding that water carves through mountains not by force, but by persistence and movement. To be resilient means to remain steady even when everything else shifts. It means bending without breaking, yielding without giving up. A tree that refuses to sway in the storm will snap, but one that bends will rise again when the wind passes. Life's challenges are not meant to crush you, they are meant to shape you into something flexible, aware and grounded. Resilience is the art of maintaining balance when the world around you loses it. It is the quiet strength of those who trust the process even when they do not understand it. When you stop resisting, you begin to grow in directions you never imagined. Acceptance opens doors that defiance keeps closed. The mind that lets go of control becomes capable of seeing the deeper order in what seems like chaos. Every setback becomes part of a larger design, every fall an opportunity to rise differently. The resilient do not ask why things happen to them, they ask what life is trying to show them through it. This awareness turns obstacles into stepping stones and struggle into transformation. Resilience is not a shield that protects you from pain, but a power that allows you to move through it without losing yourself. It is the strength to face change, the patience to endure uncertainty, and the wisdom to trust that every storm has its purpose. When you stop fighting life and start moving with it, you discover that even the hardest moments carry light within them. To flow with life is to live without fear of falling, knowing that every fall is just a path toward becoming unshakable. Failure burns away everything that is false. It strips you of the mask you have worn to please the world, the illusions you have built to feel important, and the identities you have created to feel secure. When life tears down what you thought was yours, it is not an act of cruelty, it is an act of truth. You lose what was never truly meant to stay. Every failure is a fire that consumes the unreal, leaving behind only what is pure and authentic. It hurts because it burns through the layers of pride and pretense that once defined you. Most people fear failure because it exposes them. It reveals the distance between who they pretend to be and who they truly are. But that exposure is necessary for growth. Without it, one continues living in the shadows of false success and fragile confidence. When failure arrives, it does not come to destroy your worth, it comes to reveal it. It shows you what is unshakable within you, what cannot be taken away even when everything else is gone. Only through loss do you discover what is real enough to endure. Failure cleanses the mind of illusions. It ends the fantasy that control or perfection can protect you from life. When things fall apart, you see how little you truly possessed and how much you depended on things outside of yourself to feel complete. This realization is painful, but it is also freeing. It frees you from the need to impress, from the exhaustion of pretending, and from the emptiness of chasing validation. In that emptiness, a new strength begins to grow, a strength rooted not in appearance but in truth. Once you have faced the fire of failure and survived it, you no longer fear it. You understand that what was burned away was never yours to begin with. The opinions, the expectations, the false identities, all of them were temporary. What remains after the fire is not smaller, it is stronger, clearer and truer. You stop trying to be someone else and start becoming what you were meant to be all along. The ashes of failure become the ground on which your real self begins to rise. Failure is not your enemy, it is the purifier of your spirit. It removes what is hollow and returns you to your essence. The freedom that follows is beyond success or recognition. It is the peace of being real. You no longer seek validation from the world because you have seen how fragile its approval is. What you find instead is authenticity, and authenticity cannot be broken. When failure burns away the false, it does not destroy you, it reveals who you truly are. Every beginning holds power, not because of its size, but because of its truth. People often wait for the perfect moment, for the perfect plan or the perfect opportunity to start again. They believe that a new beginning must be grand to be meaningful. But life does not demand greatness at the start, it demands honesty. A small step taken with pure intention carries more strength than 1,000 empty movements made for appearance. When you begin from truth, every action aligns with your inner being, and even the smallest effort becomes a force of transformation. Starting over loses its purity the moment you do it to prove something to someone. When your actions are driven by the desire to be seen, you become a prisoner of other people's opinions. Validation is a fragile fuel, it burns fast and leaves you empty again. The more you chase approval, the further you move from your own truth. True strength is silent, it doesn't need to announce itself. When you rebuild your life not to impress the world, but to align with what feels right within you, your actions gain real power. The one who no longer needs validation becomes unstoppable because they no longer depend on the applause of others to move forward. Seeking validation is an addiction of the mind. It feeds on insecurity and grows in comparison. You measure your worth through the eyes of others, forgetting that their perception changes with their moods, fears and desires. When you live for their approval, your identity shifts with every opinion. In this endless chase, you lose your essence. Freedom begins when you no longer need anyone to confirm your value. You don't rise to be admired, you rise because remaining broken is no longer an option. Transformation, on the other hand, begins when the focus turns inward. It is not loud or glamorous, it is often silent, unseen and uncomfortable. You begin to face the parts of yourself you once ignored. You see your weakness, your ego, your fear, and instead of hiding them, you start to understand them. Transformation is not about becoming someone new, it is about removing everything that is false so that your true nature can emerge. The process is demanding, but the result is liberation. When you no longer seek validation, you begin to live with integrity. Your actions arise from clarity, not from the need to please or impress. You stop comparing your journey to others because you understand that no two paths are meant to be the same. Transformation is personal, it does not require witnesses. The world may not notice your change immediately, but life itself will. Every step you take from truth creates an unseen ripple that shapes your destiny in silence. The one who seeks validation lives as a reflection of others, but the one who seeks transformation becomes a reflection of truth. You do not need the world to see your light, you only need to ensure that it never dims within you. When your actions are guided by awareness rather than approval, your growth becomes unshakable. You rise quietly with no need for recognition because your fulfillment comes not from what others think of you, but from who you know yourself to be. Every ending carries a silence that feels like emptiness, but within that silence lies the seed of a new beginning. When something ends, it often feels like the ground beneath you has vanished. But what is truly happening is a clearing. Life removes what no longer serves you, even if your mind still clings to it. The pain of loss is the echo of attachment, not the voice of truth. What you call the end is often life's way of preparing you for something deeper, something that cannot emerge while you are still holding on to what was. When life brings you to your knees, remember, that is the perfect position to rise again. Every fall you've survived has already proven your strength. The courage to start over is not given by the world, it is discovered within when you choose to face life once more with open eyes and an open heart. Do not fear beginning again, for each time you do, you rise wiser, deeper and freer than before. What breaks you today can become the very force that builds you tomorrow.